All right, today is the day, and it is the Leviathan day. We are going to do a really short video today, and so this is going to be a short introduction, but we're going to be looking at doing some color, getting some of the features added to the chassis and the subframe. Let's jump in and take a look at it.
I have had a rash of problems and difficulties going on this project. I guess all projects. Just nothing seemed to be going right. And then one day I decided that I'm going to go ahead and finish up these parts, and I picked up some Raptor Liner. This is, one of those truck bed liner systems you can do yourself. This one is tintable, and I can pick my own color. And let me tell you, this was one of the greatest things to hit my life in a long time. This stuff went on so well. The color came out so beautiful. Of course, I picked the color, of course. But just, it was a joy to work with. I haven't used any of the others. This is the first time I ever tried these kind of products, and it just seemed to work out well. So luckily, turn of events was good in my life at this point, and I got some nice color on these things. Well, that might have been the end of the good going on, because things just went back to just plain work after that. But with these parts, they're going to go on the side of the subframes. I need to add some fittings to them and some features before they get bolted on. One of those is some air lines. There's going to be air lines placed in each four corners of this vehicle. And so that's what I'm doing here, is just getting some Teflon onto the fittings, make sure they don't leak, because it's kind of hard to access them, and that's why it's getting done now before they actually go into place. And what this is fittings for an air hose that's going to be stored in these parts. And I put a T in here, and that T is going to act as a mechanism to bolt this into place. And we're going to use on that third position of that T, we're going to put a little petcock in there so that you can actually drain the moisture or empty the air out of the system at any one of these corners. But like I said, it acts as a really nice way to bolt it to a surface. Could have used just the plain bolt to go through if you could find the right threads, but this petcock works great. And then we're going to put a air fitting on the other end, just a little quick release. What I really need to add on to is a fitting that clamps onto the Schrader valve stem on the tire. If anybody knows where I can find those type of connectors that clamp onto that valve stem, let me know in the comments. But that goes and stores inside that little tube. Now those things got their air fittings on, and the rear one has a gas line or a gas filler valve in it as well, but we haven't shown that. Sorry, but we need to now drill into our subframe. If you remember, the subframe is made out of mostly 2-inch aluminum tubing. So we're going to take our little angle drill, that's the only thing it gets in here, and drill through that tubing, because these parts, they're going to slide up and fit into position. Now, being made out of 1/4-inch aluminum plate, they are very heavy duty, and they are heavy as well. Even though they're aluminum, they are pretty heavy. Son-in-law was by that day, so we're going to have him help us get those things into position. Now, we lifted them into position once before, marked our tubing, and you saw me drill those. Now it's a matter of getting bolts to line up with those holes that we've just created and get these things bolted into position. 4 bolts on each side. Should be plenty of holding power. Like I said, these are pretty heavy-duty parts. May take some abuse. I'll give you a little description here in a moment about them, what their purpose is. We'll get them bolted on. Now it's going to be hard to get the nuts on, but luckily I was just barely able to reach through the front, through that big hole in the open front, and in through the back to get the other bolts. Well, when the son-in-law leaves, you have to find another helper, so I had to bring my wife out for the rear piece here. And we're just going to go through the same process again. We have marked the holes, drilled some holes, and now it's a matter of holding this thing in place. Of course, this one's a little bit shorter, a little bit lighter, and so we can hold that in place and get our bolts in it. The other thing we worked on here is the winch and the rear bumper. I had previously painted that bumper, but it just did not look very good, and it was already chipping a little bit. It was in crappy paint. Like I said, this Raptor Liner was great stuff. So we're going to get that winch installed into a box. It is bolted on the sides and the bottom and in the back. And so it should have holding power as well, which is going to be very important when you're pulling yourself or somebody else out with this winch. With that thing in place and cable fed through the fair lead, now we're going to just put some stainless steel fasteners on. Stainless steel just so we can keep them nice and pretty. They're going to be exposed here in the rear, and so they keep a little corrosion away so we can take this thing off if we ever need to. Anyway, that is the process of putting these things together. Let me explain.
Some of the followers of the channel have been asking me to go ahead and give a little more of a description to some of these things I'm doing, because of course I know exactly what they're for, but the viewer may not know what I'm even talking about when I'm looking at something. And so these, another part that you have no idea what it's called because you invented the whole thing. This is what I'm calling the drop columns. Now you've just seen them fastened to the subframe. They go between the wheels, and between the two drop columns there's going to be a large storage tank that will be airtight. It will also act as a flotation tank when this thing is in amphibious mode. That will swing out and you'll have access to storing some things in there. But also in the drop columns themselves there is a little bit of a storage area. Big area down here for carrying chains, possibly. Wonder what this little thing is. That is a chain hold down. This little socket here is for a hammock or a saddle chair that can be plugged into here. One in there for the back to sling a hammock between, or independently for little saddle chairs. And of course you have seen that this is for the air hose storing. So these will be able to all four corners plug in and then control the air pressure from inside the cab. Once they've hit pressure, you can come out, stuff them back into the hole for airing up, airing down. A little convenient placement there. Anyway, let's jump around the rear bumper and talk a little bit about that as well. All right, there you have it. A little look at the drop columns over there. And here, back at the rear bumper, we've got the winch on, 12,000 pound winch, and some of you are going to tell me that I've got it in the wrong place, that it should be in the front. Well, when you put it in the front, that is to pull yourself into places you shouldn't go. And when you have it on the back, that is to pull yourself out of places you shouldn't have gone. And of course, hopefully in Leviathan, we don't get places where we should have gone, but if we do, that is what it's there to get us out. Has a controller on the side, plug in for a remote. Like I said, 12,000 pounds. We got anchor points here, plug in for trailer lights, the drains for our tanks. This pivot point here is going to be for flotation tanks and the outboard drive system for amphibious mode. That, of course, is quite a ways away from getting that, but that's our bumper and our drop tanks. Well, that's our video for today, but I'm going to throw a video up right here that you can jump back and get an overview, see more about what this Leviathan project is going to be. Hope you take a chance. Go give that a view. Thanks again.